We're in Iran now, where more than 70 people have been killed and more than 170 others injured in twin blasts during a ceremony in Karaman to mark the anniversary of the killing of its senior commander, Qasem Soleimani, 4 years ago. Authorities described the attacks as a terrorist one. Hundreds of people were reportedly walking towards the tomb today as part of a ceremony to commemorate him. Mr. Soleimani was seen as the most powerful figure in Iran after the supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. A commander of the Revolutionary Guard's Overseas Operations Arm, the Quds Force, he was an architect of Iranian policy across the region. He was in charge of the Quds Force clandestine missions and its provision of guidance, funding, weapons, intelligence, and logistical support to allied governments and armed groups, including Hamas and Hezbollah. Elsewhere now, aftershocks of a 7.6 magnitude earthquake in Japan continued into Wednesday, with the government cautioning residents to be alert for more earthquakes of an intensity up to 7 in the coming week. Helicopter surveys also show many fires and widespread damage to buildings and infrastructure, while the city of Wajima on the northern tip of Noto has been cut off from land routes. According to the mayor of the coastal city of Suzu in Ishikawa Prefecture, Masushiro Izumiya, about 90% of homes in the city have been completely or nearly completely destroyed. Rescue efforts continue in Japan after at least 64 people were killed in a powerful earthquake that hit the country on New Year's Day. We draw our attention now to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russian officials say they have foiled a Ukrainian attack on a border city as the aerial war between the two nations continues to intensify. The official said a dozen missiles were downed before they could reach Belgorod, where 25 people were killed on Saturday. Ukraine is yet to comment. The attacks come after Russia launched its biggest aerial bombardment yet. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia has used some 300 missiles and 200 drones over the last 5 days. Russia's renewed aerial bombardment on Ukraine began late last week. Ukrainian forces responded with Saturday's attack on Belgorod, in which more than 100 people were also injured. Take another short break on the program, and when we return, we'll continue with stories around the world. Welcome back. Staying with issues concerning the weather, but here in Nigeria, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency is cautioning individuals with asthma and other respiratory issues to be cautious as hazy and dusty weather has been forecast in the north and over coastal cities of Delta, Bayelsa and River States in the afternoon and evening periods beginning today. Consultant pulmonologist at Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Dr. Ugochukwu Ekete, explained that susceptible people can do what they can do in addition to avoiding triggers. She was speaking in an interview with Channels Television.
Asthmatics should be on their controller, but on controller medication. Most importantly at this time, because the weather currently supports kind of pollens and molds being transported a very long distance. And these are obviously things that can kind of aggravate or what we call exacerbate the asthma condition. So one who is on a controller medication like inhaled steroid, which is actually the standard of care, it's likely to have less of this exacerbation. And in addition to this, to also have their reliever medication too, should they have symptoms. They will have something, a kind of first aid close to them before they get to the hospital. Even though also part of the process is you also identify those things that also bring on your symptoms, and you want to stay away from them.
Meanwhile, the people of the ancient kingdom of Sangana in Bayelsa State, south Nigeria, are not in a celebratory mood this festive season as they mourn their possible extinction following the daily washing away of their landmass due to coastal erosion. Well, there's no clear distinction between their living area and the ocean. In fact, their homes can be best described as the seashore. Hence, they are calling for urgent help from the federal government and other intervention agencies.
This is a journey of over 2 hours in speedboat as we head to the ancient kingdom of Sangana in Brass local government area of Bayelsa State. Sangana Kingdom is made up of several communities with a distinguishable landmass, but due to the intense coastal erosion that they experience, the communities are now merged and slowly washing away. Sangana is also an oil-producing community that plays host to over 7 producing companies, and their main occupation is fishing due to the abundance of water, but the water is now the enemy.
This is my house. I built the house 2011. As I built the house, water just away from my house. But now the water come and carry my house, cut it out.
They are gradually becoming homeless in their own homeland.
Now, right now, me and my children, even my mother's children, we don't get where to sleep. We don't get where to stay. Nowhere to stay. Sometimes we will go stay for schoolhouses. Inside schoolhouses, when they want to do school, then go come pursue us, we go come out.
These barricades show the several attempts by the people of the area to protect their land, but the ocean keeps eroding the land as no makeshift barricade can withstand its intensity.
We call on every meaningful government agencies to come to help us, because here what we are seeing in the next possible 10 to 15 years, there will be no Sangana. And that will speak a very negative impact. Knowing our economic contributions, you can see the economic trees.
An indigene of Sangana, Uro Omekomo, takes us through memory lane on the previous efforts made to ward off the coastal erosion.
In 1991, Ham Dredging was given a contract by the Flood and Erosion Department, federal government, to embark to execute a job of erosion control. It didn't last because the technology failed. In 2009, another job was awarded by a federal government interventionary agency, NDDC, to Zome Marine and Logistics. We followed it up very well. The technology applied to our own judgment is good to the environment. The technology is working, is withstanding the erosion, but it has been abandoned. That is our challenge.
According to the Sangana women leader, 2/3 of the community has already been eroded.
The buildings, the roads, the vegetation, even our vegetation, palm, the coconut trees, the mango trees, the orange trees, and even the palm tree which we use in making oil has been flushed away by this same water. We the people of Sangana, we are passing through a lot.
This primary school has become home for the people whose buildings have been submerged by the ravaging tides. 58 years old Tekio Dixon, who has 2 wives and 15 children, is now internally displaced in his own community as the ocean has swallowed 5 of his houses, and he doubts if he has the ability to build a 6th house.
This is primary school site. And look at this primary school site. May I have 2 wives and 15 children, and I have grandchildren. And look at where I kept my goods. Look at where I kept my goods. The federal government, we have been crying day in, day out, but no way, no way.
The people of Sangana are pleading for help as this menace may lead to the outbreak of a pandemic, as their living conditions are not satisfactory. Some more people are also living in fear, not sure if their own buildings will be next, but they ask for the urgent help of the federal government to stem the tide of destruction.
We're staying in Africa, but over in Uganda, where a military helicopter gunship has crashed into a house in the western Ntoroko district, killing the entire crew and the person there. According to the army, the cause of the accident is unclear, as the helicopter crashed on Tuesday near the border with the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Ugandan army has been conducting airstrikes against the Islamic State-linked Allied Democratic Forces militants who have carried out several attacks in Ntoroko. President Yoweri Museveni has called for the activation of paramilitary local defense units to support the army in fighting the militants. And the United States has removed 4 African countries from the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA deal. Uganda, the Central African Republic, Gabon and Niger are no longer beneficiaries of the trade deal effective from January 1st. The decree by U.S. President Joe Biden on December 29th will effectively end Kampala's ability to export certain commodities to the U.S. without added tax. Analysts say this could also have a serious impact on the Ugandan economy, which has significantly benefited from the program since it was established in the year 2000. And 12 people have been charged in Sierra Leone for their alleged role in November's failed coup attempt. They include former police and correctional officers, as well as the former bodyguard of ex-President Ernest Bai Koroma. Mr. Koroma is also a suspect in the coup attempt and has been under house arrest since he was questioned by police last month. Information Minister Cherno Baz says the suspects are facing several charges, including treason, concealing treason, and harboring, aiding and abetting the enemy. Other suspects are expected to be charged in the coming days. In December, the government announced that it had held 80 suspects of the coup attempt, including civilians and active and former police and military officers. Mr. Koroma's daughter, Danke Koroma, was also named among 54 other wanted suspects. Also, the Democratic Republic of Congo's main opposition candidates say they will not challenge the re-election of incumbent President Felix Tshisekedi. Second-placed billionaire businessman Moise Katumbi, third-placed Martin Fayulu, and Nobel laureate Denis Mukwege are among the candidates whose teams say they will not contest the results at the Constitutional Court. The deadline to file a presidential election in court lapses on Wednesday. The Constitutional Court will have 7 days to consider an appeal and make a ruling. If no petition is filed, Mr. Tshisekedi will be sworn in on January 20. The Electoral Commission on December 31 declared Mr. Tshisekedi winner of the poll with 73% of the vote, with Mr. Katumbi coming second with 18%. The election was marred by widespread logistical and technical problems, according to observers. And still ahead. Well, if there's anything we love about winter, it's that sometimes it's the breathtaking views that we see from, across bridges and elsewhere. You can see that. We want to see the frozen waterfalls of Qingzhou in China. Welcome back. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has appealed against a decision by Maine top election official to remove him from the ballot for this year's presidential election. Mr. Trump, the current Republican frontrunner, asked that a state court overturn the move by Maine Secretary of State Shenna Bellows. Ms. Bellows has previously defended her decision by saying she has a sacred obligation to uphold the law. The former U.S. president has also been removed from the ballot in Colorado. Mr. Trump was removed from the Maine and Colorado ballots by challenges that cited the U.S. Constitution's insurrection clause and his alleged incitement of the 2021 U.S. Capitol riot. The 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution bans anyone whom has engaged in insurrection or rebellion from holding federal office. Let's get more on this. Our Washington correspondent, Maria Bird, joins us now to talk about, all this drama concerning the former U.S. president. Maria, great to see you today.
Great to be with you.
Right. So what do Americans make of the Maine Supreme Court decision?
Well, Americans are not surprised in regards to this. This is something I think was expected to occur as we knew that we were approaching upon many primary election season. And so I think that what Maine is doing is not going to be the first. I think many are expecting that this could be seen across the country for many states. And as has been cited, is the constitutional factors that adjust here. And so the courts are going to be very critical and pivotal in this current election season. This is one that will definitely be historic in nature, as we've seen in years past.
And I know that this must have been, discussed on U.S. media, whether or not this was the right decision. President Trump has the right to run for office, doesn't he?
He does have the right to run for office, but as this is very unprecedented to have this type of insurrection that occurred on January the 6th in 2020. And so I think that what we're seeing now is individuals really reading the Constitution, really seeing what are the statutory limitations for someone to run for office. And so due to the nature of what happened January 6th, I think that is what's creating and causing one to be able to request that he be removed from the ballot because of what has been identified in the Constitution.
Do all the states have to vote on whether or not his name will be on the ballot in their states?
Various states have various regulations and rules in the way in which they will review these statutory limitations. Obviously, this constitutional amendment that has been identified will be interpreted by various states in different ways. And so we will probably see some states that will say that he has every constitutional right to be on the ballot, and others that might be in alignment with what Maine has said. And so the courts are going to be critical to interpret this constitutional amendment.
I know that, in the previous elections, we see, how states, the votes along the party line, some are Republican, some vote more for the Democrats. So with all the states combined, Maine and Colorado have, decided what they want. What states do you think will fall in favor of Mr. Trump and what states will not? Or is this just a purely legal matter?
It'll be very interesting to see which states will fall in line. And I think that will also give us indications as to what we'll see in the election season, because we can look at some of the trends as to the states that were won by the Republican Party in the last election cycle, whether they were Senate, gubernatorial races. So those potentially we could see in favor of having the former president on the ballot. But I think this is something that we've not seen before in the United States. It's very unprecedented. So it's really going to be about a legal matter, as you have stated, and really how the Constitution is interpreted and how states decide to interpret that Constitution. And then the Supreme Court obviously will be the final say if the former president decides to continue with court proceedings.
And what happens if it turns out the rejections are more than the acceptance of Mr. Trump running for office?
What we've seen with many Republican candidates being very vocal and very much a part of the race, I think they are counting on potentially something like this happening. And so they are very much committed to becoming potentially the Republican nominee for their party.
But Maria, there are, a few candidates rising in the Republican Party. And what are their chances of clinching the party's nomination ticket now that Mr. Trump is in troubled waters with the law?
I think Iowa, as we all know, in 2 weeks from now will be doing their primary elections, and Iowa has always been the eye for the American people and the eye for the world to really give an indicator as to what we could see in the other primary elections. And I think once we get through the Iowa caucuses and those elections, we will be able to then see what could potentially be that Republican nominee who will clinch. I think there's been many that have risen up and that many Republicans are supporting, but to say who the definite front runner is, I think it's a little premature because the former president is still heavily supported by the Republican Party.
Maria, thanks again.
Thank you.
Let's move on. The UN Security Council has welcomed 5 new non-permanent members for the year 2024 to 2025, including Algeria, Sierra Leone, Guyana, Republic of Korea, and Slovenia. Algerian Ambassador Amar Benjama says the membership marks the start of his country's mandate of the representative of both the African and the Arab regions, while Ambassador of Sierra Leone, Michael Imran, says his country will pursue sustenance of global peace and security. The 5 newly elected countries will join Ecuador, Japan, Malta, Mozambique and Switzerland as non-permanent members of the Council. They took seats previously occupied by Albania, Brazil, Gabon, Ghana and the United Arab Emirates as their 2-year terms ended on December 31, 2023.
Today, on the first business day of the new year, I welcome Algeria, Guyana, Republic of Korea, Sierra Leone and Slovenia, our distinguished newly elected members of the Security Council for 2024-2025, as they take their seats on this premier body of the United Nations. We firmly believe that these 5 incoming members will bring much depth and focus on the issues of peace and security.
The plight of the Palestinian people will be high in our agenda. We will not give up our demand for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and for a just and lasting solution to the Palestinian question based on the fulfillment of the legitimate right of the Palestinian people to establish its independent state with Al-Quds as its capital.
Sierra Leone will pursue its priorities based on partnership and a representative approach to sustain global peace and security. We shall work within the formulation of the A3+, the E10, and with the P5 to most significantly make the Council take meaningful action and timeously in maintaining international peace and security, underlining the utility of regional arrangement and regional ownership.
And we end the program in a white fashion with some of the breathtaking, spectacular views of the frozen waterfalls of Junju in China's Shandong province. Drone footage shows the mesmerizing feat of nature, as well as visitors taking photographs. In recent weeks, China has been facing a major cold spell with record low temperatures across the country. But these pictures are worth the trouble. And we end the program from those breathtaking views in China. I'm Joke Rogers. Bye for now.